Salutations everyone, this is Razor giving you guys some tips, I don't know, some things that maybe not everybody knows about Overwatch, some little nuanced things that just might help you, because you don't want to be that guy who is the reason that your team loses. Now, I've played with all of those guys, and it's very frustrating. So let's go over mistakes that a lot of people make and things that people should do that they may or may not be doing, whether you're a beginner or just someone who doesn't learn from their mistakes or what have you. So the biggest mistake by far that you see in Overwatch is people using the wrong character at the wrong time, in the wrong team composition, in the wrong portion of the map, what have you. There is no such thing as maining in Overwatch. That's not a thing. This isn't a fighting game. This isn't Smash Bros. This isn't Street Fighter. This ain't Killer Instinct. You don't main a character. This isn't even League of Legends, you know. Every character has their own role that needs to be played. You have the offense, the defense, the support, and the tanks. And you need that composition in every single team. So if you choose Reaper every single time, it's not going to be very good. Maybe you're good at Reaper, and maybe you win most of your games, but there are some cases where, you know, your team needs a tank to push that escort. Junkrat isn't going to be the best character on every single map. Everyone using all Roadhogs is not going to be good for your team. Everyone using all Maze, you're probably going to lose that game. And it usually just takes 2 or 3 people to pick the same character for the entire team to switch over to that one character, and then you lose. I've never been on a team that was all or mostly one character and won. That's never happened. I've been against teams that have been mostly one character and lost to them, but I don't know if they're communicating or just better players or what have you. People just, they don't seem to take into consideration the needs of the team. Sometimes, yes, you do need a healer. Sometimes you may need a sniper. Sometimes you'll need somebody, someone needs to take out that Torbjorn turret, so someone switch to Widowmaker or Genji because he doesn't have damage drop-off on his shurikens, or Hanzo or a Reinhardt, which a lot of people don't realize is good at taking out the turret, at least when it's not, Molten Cord, because that could be a bother. So, you change up your character. If you're losing, or if you're doing very poorly, then just change your character. If the map has moved from outdoor to indoor, or indoor to outdoor, maybe you'll need to change your character accordingly. Or maybe you need to push that escort just a little bit further, so maybe you double up on your tanks, or you put on a healer so you can heal your tank, or what have you. Maybe you need to switch to a character that can take out a character that's, destroying your team. Now, there are no hard counters in Overwatch. There's no one character that can counter another. There are some characters that are better at taking out other characters. Everyone, hears about being annoyed with Bastion and switching to Genji so he can deflect the bullets at him. And yes, that is a very useful tool, but there are no hard counters. And Genji isn't going to work against Torbjorn turrets, and there are situations that are definitely going to need you to make a change. So be sure to make a change. And also you can't treat every character differently. Now, you can be offensive with a tank. You can be up in their face and start annoying them. You can be, say, a tracer who goes after 1 or 2 particular enemies, or just spread the damage all around and just annoy everybody. You can be a Symmetra that uses her primary fire to take out Torbjorn turrets, or a tank that isn't moving very much. Or you could be a Symmetra that's, just using your sentry turrets and protecting the teleporter, because that could be a huge difference maker in the game. So there are different ways to play certain characters that can be more beneficial depending on the situation. Another thing that people don't use properly is the escort itself, whether it be this hovering ship, whether it be a limousine with an Omnic in it, or escorting a giant evil gauntlet. The escort heals you, which not a lot of people seem to know. It's about as healing as a Lucio, using his healing song power. So it's relatively useful. Also, shots cannot go through the escort, so you can use the escort as cover. Obviously, Hanzo ults aside, there's not going to be anything that's going to be going through. People can shoot under, whether with a Hanzo, special attack that deflects multiple arrows around, or a Junkrat can get his, little grenades underneath. It's going to block all attacks coming at it, so you can use it accordingly. You don't have to be behind the escort to escort it, you just have to be near it. You can be in front of it, or you can be on its side. So use it, make sure that you're blocking damage no matter which direction you are facing with the escort. Also, if there are no enemies near the escort and you are on defense, you can push the escort back. If they don't have anybody near it, then you can push it back. It is a very slow pushback, but it can help it get around a corner and make it easier to defend, or just give your enemy less time to be in a situation to make a push, whether it be a late push or force an overtime. Sometimes all an enemy team needs is to force an overtime and they can get momentum, but if you can clear everybody off, they can't even get an overtime to start because that'll deplete after like 3 seconds, so that can be a big bummer for them. Also, other things that people don't really seem to utilize as much is the health packs and really healing. If you're going to be a support character like Zenyatta or Mercy or Symmetra to a smaller extent, because she can't exactly heal, but she can use shields. And if you are Symmetra, there should be no reason why anybody on your team is not always shielded at all times, because her cooldown on that shield is incredibly fast. It's like 2 seconds or something. So if you're Symmetra, everyone on your team should be shielded at all times. It's very, very easy. Also, shields and armor and health are not treated equally. Armor will decrease the damage taken by an attack by 5, unless it already does less than 5 damage. Of course, then it'll do that damage. So armor is tankier than shields and health. Health doesn't regen unless you get to a pack or you're healed by a support character. But everybody is going to have their various amount of squishiness. And shields act just like health, except they will replenish over time. So someone like Zarya, who has a ton of shields, can be in the forefront of an attack and not get punished by it as much than, say, a D.Va, who is mostly armor. And she can use, her defense matrix to, maybe survive more ults than Zarya, but Zarya will be able to, absorb more damage and not lose any of her health, possibly. And of course, armor doesn't exactly recharge either. So that's something else to take into consideration. Also, with your healers, if you're a Mercy, don't be at the forefront. Maybe, you see the Reinhardt trying to make a push and you go up to heal him. It might make you a little bit more vulnerable. The biggest problems with Mercies aren't usually the Mercy characters themselves. Sometimes they'll push up a little bit too much, or they'll try to fly to a character that's too deep within the enemy territory, and it can be rough. But mostly, you see Mercies have low win percentages and not do so well because the team doesn't utilize the Mercy properly. If there's a Mercy on your team, let the Mercy get the health packs, because then she can heal you. And she's a very squishy character, she's very vulnerable, and she's going to have a huge target on her back. Because we've all been on the other side of a situation where the enemy team has a Roadhog and a Mercy, or a D.Va and a Mercy, or Reinhardt and a Mercy, or maybe, a DPS character and a Mercy, and it makes it really, really tough. You're like, you want to target the Mercy first. So your enemy team is going to have that object in mind at least some of the time. We all know the Pharah Mercy combo is strong because Pharah can fly, and that kind of keeps Mercy out of danger because she can fly to any of her targets, especially Pharah, since she can fly and hover herself. Mercy can keep out of danger a little bit much. So that's a powerful combo. Speaking of combos, your ults. You want to be able to use your ults accordingly. And even when you're not communicating with your teammates via headset or in the text box, you can let them know when your ult is ready. And maybe they'll let you know when their ult is ready. Keep the communication going, even if you're not always communicating, because you can use your combos in tandem with one another. You can use Zarya's Graviton Surge or Mei's Freezer Bot to cluster your enemies and make them vulnerable to a Hanzo ult or a Reaper Death Blossom or what have you. There's lots of combos that can have Earth Shatter with Reinhardt. can go great with a lot of things. So let your teammates know when your ult is ready, so that way maybe you'll get some combos, or at least let them know, alright, Zarya is about to pop her Graviton Surge, I'm going to focus all of my fire, near her. I'm going to keep track of where the Zarya is, so when she drops that nuke, I'm going to, shoot all my rockets, or, make sure my guns are reloaded, or not use my special ability right now, because I'm going to want to use it when Zarya pops that ult, or when Reinhardt pops that Earth Shatter, so you can take full advantage of the situation. Another thing to consider that may not be super obvious to some people, I certainly didn't know it at the beginning, is that ults, of course, all have a sound cue, but those sound cues will differentiate between team affiliations. You will only hear someone use their native tongue, their native non-speaking tongue, like Hanzo saying, "Woga teki wo kuraru," if he's on the enemy team. So if you hear that, that's an enemy Hanzo, so you don't confuse it with your teammate's Hanzo, who's going to be speaking English. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, they will have different inflections on their voice, even if they are always speaking English, like they're a native English speaker, like McCree. Then you'll hear subtle differences to let you know when your teammate is popping ult versus when your enemy team is going to be popping an ult. There are also, you want to make sure that you hear those cues and you know what to do. You see a Tumbleweed, you know McCree's using a Deadeye. You see a Graviton Surge, maybe you want to, like Reinhardt, for instance, he can charge out of the Graviton Surge. So that's some of those things that you want to keep in mind when your enemies are popping ults and such, because that can be a huge thing with the game. You don't want to all cluster in a corner, or maybe around the objective or on the escorts, because that makes you, more fodder for a Death Blossom or something like that. Also, I see way too many people popping their ults when they're at low health. If a McCree has, only 60 health and he uses his Deadeye, all it takes is one person to see him before he shoots and he's gone. If you are fighting as Reaper and then you Death Blossom when you're only at 50 health, you're not gonna get kills because you're just gonna get shot and you're gonna die. If you're Pharah and you're not at full health and you go to rain from above, then you're going to be a sitting duck. All it takes is one person to be out of range or for you not to be shooting at them, and you're going to get popped. Now, of course, all of these leave you kind of vulnerable, but if you're at full health or at least close to it, or maybe you have a Symmetra shield or you picked up a Torbjorn armor pack, you're going to be in a much better situation to pop that ult. Maybe you want to get behind them. That's going to be harder for people to realize. Maybe you teleport behind them with Reaper and then do a Death Blossom. Or maybe you go up the stairs with McCree, go onto a balcony, and Deadeye them from there. We don't see enough people using their ults properly. Another thing that I found myself guilty of early on in my Overwatch time is taking stock of how many people on your team are alive and where they are. Because I seem to be playing with a lot of randos who are really bad at the game, and they'll all die, and I'm the only one on the objective, or I'm on my way to the objective after respawning. Don't do that. Wait for your team to respawn and make a cohesive push. You're going to be much stronger if you're going 4, 5, 6 at a time than 1, 2, or 3 at a time. So while you may want to always have somebody pushing the objective, or man, someone killed me, I want revenge, or someone needs to take out that Torbjorn turret, or that Bastion sitting in the corner in turret mode, wait for your teammates, because that's going to give your enemies more targets to shoot at, and it's going to give you guys more focused fire opportunities. So instead of you trying to solo an objective and then dying, and then by the time you respawn, all your teammates are on the objective, and then they get wiped out because they're terrible at video games, and then you go solo, and then you die again, and it's just a lather, rinse, repeat. So wait for your teammates. That way the supports can support, the tanks can tank more properly, and not have all of the aggro, and they'll be able to push the objective or stay alive long enough in the objective to get the game going in the victory direction as opposed to losing. So those are just a few things that have been bothersome to me that I see teammates doing a lot, as well as enemy teams doing, to make your Overwatch experience just a little bit better. Every character has their own little unique techs that we can go over in other videos, but these are some more general things that I think we can all get behind.